Boldwood presents 'Tis the Damn Season, written by Fiona Gibson and read by Helen Phillips. The moral right of the author has been asserted. This performance is owned by Boldwood. Chapter 1. 11 Days Until Christmas. Can we go home now? Please. Shelley stops in the busy shopping mall and glares at Joel. Fairy lights sparkle overhead, and do they know it's Christmas is being piped out from somewhere? The bowels of hell, possibly. Accelerating Shelley's heart rate like a double caffeine shot. Just need to get a few bits, she says. Honestly, it won't take long. I hate this, he whines. We've been here for hours. Joel only arrived 40 minutes ago. I'm hungry and I need a drink. We won't be much longer. I really need something to drink, Joel insists, gasping now as if they were traversing the Kalahari Desert and not an East London shopping mall long overdue a refit. Why do we have to do this? On a Saturday as well? All these people. I hate it. For God's sake, Shelley rounds on him. You think I love it? I'm tired and I want to go home. Joel looks at her imploringly. Then he makes his body go floppy, as if his spine has suddenly melted and he's on the verge of collapse. Trying to blot him from her vision, Shelley marches on determinedly, rattling through the kind of mental lists that have cluttered her brain throughout every December since she first gave birth. Travel mug for Finn. Can his preferred type really cost 40 quid? And that special razor Martha wants, plus roll-on perfume, sheet masks, pillow spray containing some crucial ingredient that Shelley has now forgotten, and something called a pore blurrer. At 17 years old, Martha's pores are invisible to the naked eye. It's Shelley's pores that need blurring, she decides crossly. She's been tempted by something her friend Pearl, a former beauty editor and product aficionado, has been raving about. The Miracle Filler, it's called. But are things really so bad that at 52, Shelley's face needs to be filled, like cracked mortar? As she drags the whining Joel past a desolate branch of Claire's accessories, her brain flips back to her Christmas list. A sweater for Finn? Or will he despise it on principle? Socks? Non-molting scarf for her mother-in-law, because last year's choice shed turquoise fluff all over her good jacket, and apparently she's still picking bits off. Shelley glares at her shopping companion as he lopes along at her side. Now her list swerves down an alternate route. Strong booze, cigarettes, divorce lawyer. Unfortunately, she can't placate Joel with the Chupa Chups lolly, or even a visit to Santa's grotto, set up in a saggy velour tent outside Dr. Noodle's. Because Joel isn't a small child, being dragged around the shops by his mum. Joel is Shelley's husband, aged 52, and a highly successful freelance graphic designer, and father to their teenage daughter and son. For the 17 years they've been parents, Joel has cunningly avoided any involvement with Christmas at all, or indeed parenting pretty much. However, it's the festive season that always threatens to tip Shelley over the edge. In the early years, when Shelley was at home full-time with the kids, it sort of made sense, as Joel would be working flat out to meet Christmas deadlines. He never works at a normal rate. It's always flat out. By the time Martha and Finn were at school and Shelley had returned to work, Christmas had well and truly become her department. Really, everything is Shelley's department. If their lives together were one of those vast, old-fashioned department stores, Shelley would be in charge of ladies' fashions, bedding and electricals, plus the restaurant, staff, cleaning and building maintenance. What Joel does, as he points out regularly, is earn money to keep them all. The real money, that is. Shelley's contribution from working as a receptionist at a local care home is barely acknowledged. Can't you do it all online? Joel asked this morning, meaning the Christmas shopping. No, I can't, Shelley insisted. I need one day, just one day, Joel, with you helping me. looking around the shops. And now, as they head home on the tube, laden with bags, Shelley senses Joel's spirits rising. "Thank God that's over," he announces loudly, for the benefit of the whole carriage. "Please promise me you'll do it all online next year. Don't make me go through that again." Rather than deigning to reply, which would only encourage him, she watches her husband catch the eye of the young man in a mustard beanie hat sitting opposite, and she reads the silent exchange between them. "Joel, women, eh? Christmas. Beanie man, you poor bastard, mate. Joel, but I did it 'cause I'm a good guy." Beanie man smirks in a way that Joel interprets as male-to-male camaraderie, when in fact he's probably thinking, "Stop grinning and staring at me, weird old man." Back home, Shelley and Joel dump the numerous bags in the hallway. Before she has even pulled off her jacket, he zoomed to the kitchen and snatched a beer from the fridge, as if it's essential to life. Then he marches past her, cantering upstairs with his beer, leaving her standing with the shopping bags clustered around her feet. Shelley blinks down at them, and then glares upstairs. It wouldn't have killed him to help her carry them up to their bedroom, where Christmas presents are being stored. Presents, incidentally, that include carefully chosen items for Joel's mum and dad, to which the non-molting scarf will be added, plus his brother's wife, their 3 children and a couple of elderly aunties. They too came under the banner of Shelley's department. Joel is too busy being God, installed up in his studio in the converted loft space of their somewhat scuffed and shabby terraced home. "Martha! Finn!" Shelley calls out. No response. The kids must be out, so at least their presents can be squirreled away without any interference. "Joel?" She stares upstairs. "Joel!" After a few moments, he appears on the landing, looking distracted and clutching his phone. Joel is obsessed with his phone and checks it repeatedly during mealtimes and sometimes, on occasion, during sex. In those rare moments when he isn't holding it, his hand still forms a phone-holding shape. Shelley worries that he might need an operation to correct it. "What is it?" He frowns. "Could you help me upstairs with this lot? Can we do it in a bit? Just sending some emails." "It's just, if the kids come back, they're going to see. Can I do it when I've finished?" He disappears back up the wooden staircase to the loft. Simmering with irritation now, Shelley lugs the shopping upstairs in 2 loads and then heads to the kitchen to prepare dinner. The sink is piled high with dirty dishes. Shelley's family seem to be under the illusion that this is a magical sink that cleanses its contents without any human involvement, like those freaky public loos that sluice everything down when you've gone out. She refixes her blonde ponytail and tears into the washing up. And now she remembers that Joel has invited the boys around tomorrow for mince pies, mulled wine and their annual festive table football tournament. Shelley likes Joel's friends, gathered from his various magazine jobs and a football team he belonged to briefly. She's happy for him to invite them all round, as it's usually a jolly occasion. But they're not ready this year. Not a single decoration has been put up yet, and there isn't a tree, and there aren't even any mince pies for crying out loud. They're Joel's friends. Couldn't he have sorted this? She scampers upstairs and bursts into Joel's studio. He springs back in his chair, as if she's pulled a gun on him. "We need to get a tree," she announces. "What? What kind of tree?" What kind does he think? An apple tree? A weeping willow? A Christmas tree? You've got the boys coming over tomorrow. "We can get it tomorrow morning," he says with a shrug. "Can we just do it now, so we can decorate in the morning and do the room? Make it look festive for everyone coming. The man's there till around 7. The Christmas tree man, she means. He's been selling real pine trees all week from a pop-up shop in the old laundrette. We don't need it all decorated for tomorrow. It's ages till Christmas." "It's not ages, Joel. It's 11 days. "Fucking hell, are you counting?" he splutters. "It's just, I'm working 4 days next week. So am I. I'm working all the days. Yes, so if we don't do it this weekend, that's another week gone. Oh, for God's sake. Joel places his phone face down on his desk. A vast expanse of vintage teak the size of Kent. He won't admit how much it cost. It's a business expense, he insisted. Whenever he looks cross when Shelley buys anything other than the cheapest white wine, she is tempted to tell him it's necessary for the smooth running of their family home. So that too is a business expense. All this fuss, he grumbles now. Every year it's the same. Joel, I didn't invent Christmas. I'm not the Virgin Mary. What is she saying? Is she going mad? Inexplicably, Shelley's eyes prickle with sudden tears as she looks around Joel's immaculate workspace. There are several computers and tablets, state-of-the-art technology that no one is allowed to touch. A new laptop is Joel's prized possession. He also lied about the cost of this. Shelley knows because she checked. Not because Joel isn't entitled to buy whatever he likes. He earns the money after all. It's not just a laptop. It's a vital tool, he says. No, she only checked the price to confirm to herself that it really hadn't been £200, and that therefore he must think her an idiot. Her gaze sweeps across the rest of the room. There's his beloved football table, which Finn and Martha used to nag to play until Joel's rabid competitiveness drained all the fun out of it. In the corner, a fantastically expensive guitar, virtually unplayed, gleams from its stand, and the walls are hung with huge framed prints showcasing Joel's typography. Free your soul, one of them reads. Okay, Shelley thinks, but could you also get the ladder out and climb up through the hatch, like I keep asking you to free the Christmas decorations from the loft? She's about to ask again, but the way he is looking at her now, please go, his look says, sends Shelley stomping back downstairs, calculating that in 3 days' time she'll be getting together with Pearl and Lena, and then her equilibrium will be fully restored. And then, she is sure of it, everything will be all right. Chapter 2. 10 Days Until Christmas. Lena stares at Tommy and waits. She's waiting for his top lip to quiver, as it does when he's winding her up and trying to trap in a laugh. Surely this is a joke. Tommy has always been a prankster. She'd fallen in love with that daft, larky side of him. And this is a good one. So the old elm crashed through Mum and Dad's kitchen roof, and now they're coming for Christmas. Ha ha ha, hilarious. Any second now, laughter will burst out of him and she'll play wrestle him in mock fury. Don't you ever do that to me again. But Tommy still isn't laughing. And something hard and cold seems to clamp itself around Lena's chest as she registers his chalk-pale face, the sheen of sweat on his forehead. Tommy, please tell me this is a joke. Of course it's not. He looks down, frowning, his usually bouncy demeanour somewhat flattened. The whole kitchen roof's got to come off. They could have been killed, you know, if they'd been in the kitchen. I don't mean the tree part, she says quickly. It's going to cost tens of thousands. Yes, and I'm really sorry about that. I meant the Christmas part, Tommy. Your mum and dad announcing they're coming to us for Christmas Day, like it's a fait accompli. You're not serious, are you? He runs a hand over his abundant dark hair, swept back and flecked a little with silver. At 51, a year older than Lena, Tommy looks startlingly youthful, considering he loves his red wine and the occasional illicit cigarette in the garden. In the genes, she reckons, when they started dating. The Huntley family goes back generations. As does Lena's, of course. Everyone's does. But whereas Lena considers her family to be very ordinary, she grew up in a tiny terraced house in Manchester. Tommy's family aren't ordinary at all. His family home, Highlands out in Berkshire has a walled garden and a lake, and its bedrooms are named according to their colours, the yellow room, the blue room, and so on. Lena's eyes boggled when she first saw the place. "Sorry, I'm not joking, darling," he murmurs now. Lena stares at him across the kitchen. "And you're okay with this, are you?" Tommy's mouth twists. No, of course I'm not. It's completely bonkers. It'll be hell." He closes his eyes and exhales, seeming so distraught that she can't find it in herself to be angry with him. It's not his fault that the elm toppled. Not his fault that his overprivileged parents believe they have the right to do whatever they want without considering anyone else. Lena knows in her heart that Tommy is a good, kind man, and he'd never want to cause her any stress. 4 years ago, Lena had been out at a Vietnamese restaurant with Shelley and Pearl, her closest friends. They'd all been a bit tipsy when one of the men at the next table overheard something Lena had said, and there'd been a flurry of banter between the two tables. After dinner, the groups had merged and they'd all clattered off together for a drink. And that had been that. Mutual attraction between Lena and the 6'3" Tommy, with brilliant blue eyes and a broad, lopsided smile. He'd reminded her of those floppy heroes from Merchant Ivory films. She'd never met anyone like him before. 2 years on, he moved into her somewhat compact 2-bedroom flat in a 1960s block in Hackney. Not because her place was better than his, but because Tommy was living in a commuter town, and much as she loved him, she wasn't prepared to give up the place she loved. Or for that matter, London. Lena doesn't think she'll ever be ready for a life in the Shires. "And they've literally got nowhere else to go?" she asks now, incredulous. Tommy shakes his head. "You know what they're like?" Yeah." Lena does know. "Cantankerous old buggers have fallen out with pretty much every living relative," he adds. "I'd dig up a dead one if I could." Lena's mouth compresses into a flattened line. "What about a hotel? Couldn't they go out for Christmas dinner?" "Flat refusal. Mum hates hotel catering." He mimics her strident tones. "I'm not going to some grim carvery where the bird's been drying out under a heat lamp as if it's had a shampoo and set." Lena sniggers. She doesn't mention the fact that her own parents love the Sunday carvery at their local pub. "They wouldn't have to do that," she points out. "They could go somewhere really swanky." Mum says absolutely no way. Anyway, Dad's tried. Anywhere decent was booked up months ago, apparently. He looks at her in his cheeky way, trying to diffuse things with humour. "I did suggest they tried Nando's in Slough." Lena splutters at this. "But that was a no-go. And it was all, 'Don't you want us, Tommy? Do you realise what we're going through with the house?'" Lena nods as a thought occurs to her, accompanied by a tiny glimmer of hope. "This means we can't have our wedding there." At Highlands, she means. Not if the kitchen is lacking a roof. "I'm sure it'll be fine," he insists. "But what if it isn't? Sounds like they're under enough stress as it is," she says, trying to keep her tone light. What a shame, she decides privately, that they'll have to come up with an alternative plan. Tommy proposed on Lena's 50th birthday in July. After her divorce, she'd never imagined wanting to get married again. But here she was, saying yes because Tommy is wonderful and she loves him and would trust him with her life. His mother insisting that they have the wedding reception at Highlands is less wonderful. But Tommy was railroaded. It means a lot to her, and it's only one day. And so, reluctantly, Lena agreed. "They've already organised the contractors to start work," he tells her now. "They'll easily be finished by April. All done and dusted and back to normal again." Lena bites her lip. "Okay, but I'm still not sure about Christmas with them, Tommy." She glances around the living room that she'd furnished quickly and cheaply after her marriage breakup. She'd walked away from all of the mutually owned furniture that she and her ex-husband had saved for over the years. The thought of living with any of that stuff, of seeing that chair, that lamp, every day of her life, repulsed her. Instead, determined to start afresh, Lena had dashed to IKEA and sourced a fair few pieces second-hand on Gumtree. She found the bookshelf abandoned in the street and dragged it in, and given it a lick of jaunty turquoise paint. "Hardly Highlands, is it?" she remarked once, soon after she and Tommy had got together. "No, thank God," he told her. Now Lena opens the sliding door that leads onto a tiny balcony overlooking another 60s block. Their neighbours are lovely, and there are fantastic little family restaurants nearby. Both Lena and Tommy love living here, but she can only imagine what his parents will think of the place. They have never suggested visiting before, and Lena can't understand why they're so intent on spending Christmas here. Tommy comes out and takes her hand, beckoning her back in. "We can make it work, can't we? Just for Christmas Day and the one night. They could have our room, and you and me could squeeze into the box room." A hopeful smile. "It'll be cosy. You and me all snuggled in together." "It's not the sleeping arrangements I'm worried about," Lena cuts in. It's all of it, she thinks, although she doesn't say this. "I know, sweetie," Tommy murmurs, "but we can evict them on Boxing Day. Fuck it, I'll drive them home myself." "It's not that I don't want them here," she says firmly. No, actually, it is. Both she and Tommy are divorced. His was a lot more amicable than hers, and they have cherished the low-pressure Christmases they've created together. These past 2 years they have cozied up here in Lena's flat with wonderful food and wine and wall-to-wall movies. Lena's parents haven't minded her staying in London. She has 4 siblings and a gaggle of nephews and nieces, so there's always plenty of activity going on in their Manchester home. And Tommy's daughter, Daisy, has spent them with her mother. Besides, Tommy's parents have given no indication that they actually like her. "So, where are you from, Lena?" William, his father, barked at her the first time she visited Highlands. "Manchester," she replied, "but I moved to London when I was 20... No, I mean originally." William's gaze bored into her forehead over the silver candlesticks. I was born in Manchester," she said pleasantly, while Tommy patted his clammy forehead with a napkin and tried to veer them down an alternative path. "Dad, I was thinking we could take Lena on the forest walk tomorrow. What do you think?" "I mean, where are your parents from?" William boomed. "Well, my dad's from Bangladesh," Lena explained in a perfectly level tone, "and he met my mum who's from Yorkshire when he moved to England in the 60s. "Ah," William said, apparently satisfied that he had managed to finally drag the correct information from her. Then later, over after-dinner drinks, Tommy's mother started on her. "So, you don't have any children?" In the tone of, "So, I hear you don't wear any knickers." "No, I don't." Lena's reserves of pleasantness were dwindling rapidly. "Mum, I hear you're thinking of renovating the summer house," Tommy announced. Ignoring this, Annabelle peered expectantly at Lena, as if awaiting an explanation. Lena toyed with telling this pinch-faced woman the truth, that she and her ex-husband had tried to get pregnant, and when nothing had happened, he had been unwilling to try IVF, so she had to let it go, and how it had turned out that the fertility issues were on her side, as throughout all of the trying and sheer desolation whenever her period arrived, he'd been shagging someone else. Clearly, Max's sperm had been plentiful and upwardly mobile as, before Lena had discovered what was going on, his lover had had a baby. "We have 4, Annabelle boasted. "Well done," Lena wanted to applaud her. "How fantastically clever of you." "Mum, Lena knows all about our family, Tommy said in a pained voice. All boys, Annabel trilled. Quite the little team. Yeah, I bet. Lena eyed her almost empty wine glass, willing it to magically refill. Been wonderful seeing them all grow up, Annabel went on, sipping her Chablis. Yes, so I've heard. Each one of them packed off to boarding school at 7 years old. All excellent at sports. Amazing, really, as Tommy hated school sports due to that pervy teacher who'd make the boys line up and hold out their rugby shorts to check they weren't wearing pants underneath. We're so very, very proud, Annabel drawled, waggling her glass, which William beetled over to refill. Then the talk turned to Catherine, Tommy's ex-wife, who had of course managed to produce a child, and of whom Annabel is clearly very fond. How is Catherine, Tommy? She asked, throwing Lena a quick look. Lena turns away from Tommy now and looks down onto their street. It's a crisp, bright Sunday morning, and across the road a young couple are carrying a Christmas tree into their block. Darling, I'm so bloody sorry, I can't tell you. Tommy stands behind her and wraps his arms around her waist, trying to coax her round to face him. But she isn't in the mood for hugs now. Lena disentangles herself and escapes to their bedroom, where she grabs her phone, brings up the group chat with Shelley and Pearl, and types a message. Lena, just found out Tommy's parents are coming here for Christmas. Shelley, what? Pearl, that's crazy. What's going on? Lena, tree fell down. Loads of damage to the family pile. You could call it a natural disaster. Shelley, or an act of God. Lena, maybe it's punishment for me shoplifting a packet of jelly tots from the newsagents in 1982. Shelley, you can't allow this, Lene. You've got to put your foot down. Lena, no choice seemingly. Too early to start drinking? Shelley, never. Lena, hope we're still on for Tuesday night, girls. Please say yes. Chapter 3. 8 Days Until Christmas. So, are you all ready for the big day? The bartender asks. Shelley looks around at Lena and Pearl and the three women laugh. What? He grins. What did I say? The champagne cocktails, please, Shelley announces. Oh, like that, is it? Do you do pints? Lena asks, leaning forward over the bar. Pints of champagne. Tense time of year, then? The neatly bearded young man remarks with a smile. They perch on stools as he makes their cocktails, taking in the glamour and opulence of the Rivoli bar at the Ritz. It's an annual tradition, coming here. Just one cocktail each. It's all they can afford. But they soak it all in. The polished walnut and glistening chandeliers and Christmas trees decorated in silver and gold. From there, they stroll happily onwards to Soho, where they squeeze their way into their favourite pub. It's noisy and scruffy, its gloss-painted walls deeply nicotine-stained and hung with ancient, tattered theatre posters. It has terrible loos, and the burgundy-patterned carpet is rather sticky. However, although the cocktails are always fun to kick off their Christmas night, here is where the friends really feel at home. Miraculously, as Shelley is served, a tiny table in the corner becomes free, and Lena bags it. Soho has changed a lot since Shelley, Pearl and Lena worked together, just a short hop away on a woman's magazine in the mid-90s. Chain coffee shops have proliferated, squeezing out the celebrated greasy spoon where they often converged for hungover lunches. Madame Jojo's has gone, and the piano bar next door, where they perched on stools at the piano and laughed away many a night. It hardly seems possible that 30 years have whipped by since they met in that cheerful, buzzy office, filled with music and chatter and clouds of Shockwave's hairspray. Lena was features writer, and Shelley the editor's PA. Shelley had met Joel there. Joel, the art director, loud and brash and wildly flirtatious with his risque banter and bleached quiff. He'd slept with half the office before he and Shelley had got together. But he'd grown up by then, she decided. Got it all out of his system, she'd told Pearl and Lena, as if to convince herself as much as her friends. Pearl was the magazine's beauty editor and never 100% sure about Joel. However, she too had met her future husband on the magazine, soon after landing in London from the sleepy Cheshire village where she'd grown up. Shy, lovely, handsome Dean, who everyone had adored. They'd been mates at first, as everyone was on the magazine, a riotous gang. Dean had been a designer, laying out pages and always taking extra care when working on Pearl's beauty features. Dean always worked away quietly, in contrast to Joel, his boss, who liked to perform at work, showing off, making everyone laugh. Pearl had always liked Dean, and it wasn't just Lena and Shelley who teased her about what was obviously a mutual attraction. Pearl and Dean. It had been the office joke, the perfect coupling that had yet to happen. That unmistakable music blast out frequently, long after the joke had worn thin. It didn't matter that Dean was 3 years younger than Pearl. They had fallen in love, and 2 years on they were married, Pearl in a vintage silk dress, and Dean looking as if he'd raided his dad's wardrobe for a suit. The whole magazine staff had attended, and Joel had created a celebratory mock magazine cover depicting Pearl and Dean smiling broadly, cheeks pressed together, to mark the day. Beautifully framed, it was presented to them on their big day. Pearl and Dean special wedding issue. Pearl was 32 when their baby, Brandon, was born. They wanted more children, but a year or so later, Dean became ill. There was a year of hell, through all the chemo and radiotherapy, and it seemed hopeful for a while. But then the cancer came back, and Pearl's beautiful man faded and then died on his 40th birthday. She'd lost the love of her life, and Brandon, aged 10, had lost his much-adored dad. The years have spun by, and finally, last year, Pearl started dating again, crumbling under pressure from Shelley and Lena to at least give it a go. After all, it had been over a decade. And 3 months ago, on Hinge, she met a handsome Belgian man named Elias. "So he keeps hinting that he's planning this amazing present for me," she announces. "What is it?" Lena exclaims. "He won't say. He won't even give me a hint. He's going home to Brussels for Christmas, and he's back on the 27th and says I need to pack a bag." "A bag?" Shelley grins. "I wonder where you're going." "I don't know." Pearl beams at them, cheeks flushed in the overheated pub. "What do you think Joel's getting you, Shell?" "Oh, you know what he's like. Says it's all a load of commercial nonsense." Her tone is breezy, accompanied by a shrug. Made such a fuss about shopping on Saturday, and then on Sunday he had his mates round for a table football and he was laughing about the tree in front of them all. "What? Your Christmas tree?" Pearl frowns. "Yeah, I wouldn't have minded, but I'd gone out and bought it and dragged it home myself and stuffed it in a pot, and he reckoned it was wonky." She breaks off, feeling unexpectedly emotional at sharing this. "Christmas trees are meant to be wonky," Lena says firmly. "And he keeps saying, why do I make such a fuss about Christmas?" Shelley continues. "And why not get everyone one of those charity presents? A goat or a donkey or a donation to a sewage system?" "Joel wants a sewage system." Pearl's eyes widen. "God, no. He wants a guitar amp. A massive black box thing to keep up in his lair." Lena splutters. "Maybe he could come over and do a performance for Tommy's parents on Christmas Day. Distract them from grilling me about where I'm from." "I can't believe they're coming to you." Shelley shakes her head. "I know. Rainwater's pouring into the kitchen, apparently. Annabelle can't possibly cook Christmas dinner in there." "Couldn't they microwave a couple of jacket potatoes?" Pearl suggests. "And what about their other sons?" Shelley asks. "I thought there was a whole gang." Team, Lena corrects her. It's Team Huntley, remember? And no, they can't go to any of the others because they're all off to some massive chalet in the French Alps for the whole of Christmas. Well, couldn't they join them there? Pearl looks confused. Oh no, they wouldn't want to intrude on the holiday. Not when they've all worked so hard all year being Chancellor of the Exchequer and Boss of the Bank of England and Mayor of bloody Berkshire. She is exaggerating, but only slightly. In fact, Lena can never remember what any of them do, only that they are terribly important and that all they ever seem to talk about is managing wealth. When magazines started closing, Lena swapped careers from feature writing to creating content for several linked charities. She loves her work and the flexibility of freelancing, but she is definitely not in the managing wealth bracket. On occasion, it's been more like managing the loose change she's managed to scrabble together from under the sofa cushions. She pushes her short, choppy, dark hair behind her ears. I actually feel like running away, she admits. If you're going, I'm coming too, Shelley announces. Joel wouldn't even get the decorations down from the attic. He said, why don't you just get some new ones? And I said I wanted my grandma's baubles like we have every year. I ended up clambering up there myself, with Martha resenting holding the ladder for 10 minutes, asking if I was nearly done yet because she was going out. She laughs dryly, trying to make light of it. She didn't plan to pour out her woes on a night that kicked off with cocktails at the Ritz, and which they'd look forward to for weeks. But still her heart quickens in anger. Her grandma's baubles. Why couldn't Joel understand? You know, Pearl says, we could go away. My cousin's always inviting me up to his place. Oh? Who's this? Lena asks. Michael in the Highlands, Pearl replies. I haven't seen him in years. Decades, actually. And he's not even a real cousin. He's my second cousin, I think. Or once removed. Our mums were cousins, or second cousins. I was never quite sure. And he's quite a bit younger. 5 or 6 years or something like that. I used to babysit him occasionally. You went up to the Highlands to do that? Lena asks in surprise. No, they lived in Cheshire, like us, but in a much posher area. Michael went to private school, but he was nice, you know, a sweet kid. We always got along well. So what happened? Lena asks. Did you just lose touch? Yeah. You know how it is. Our lives just veered off in different directions. I moved to London, and from what I heard, he met this girl, and they got married and had this dream of living the rural idyll up in Scotland. They found this ramshackle place and did it all up, and now it's a B&B. Wow, Lena murmurs. So did it all work out for them? The B&B has, as far as I know. The website's still up and running, and his address is the same as it always was. But not the marriage, I don't think. At least I assume they've split because the Christmas cards stopped coming from Michael and Rona. These past few years they've just been from Michael. The girls order more drinks, filled with excitement now about this new information. A single man, stuck up there on his own. Shelley muses. I'm impressed he gets it together to send Christmas cards at all. Pearl chuckles. I thought you were going to delegate this year, Shell. Get Joel to do them. She snorts. I gave him the box of cards and the list of addresses, and he wrote one, illegibly. And he's meant to be the typography expert. Allegedly. I had to take them off him. You know what that's called? Lena cuts in. Doing a job deliberately badly so you can get out of doing it. Weaponized incompetence. Shelley laughs and shakes her head quickly, as if wanting to dispel any thoughts of her husband right now. So can we see pictures of Michael's place? She asks, and Pearl nods eagerly and pulls up the B&B's website on her phone. The three crane forward, taking in the heather-strewn landscape and the powder blue cottage nestling between purplish hills. Wow, Lena murmurs. Imagine living way up there. So beautiful. Pearl nods, bringing up interior pictures of the B&B rooms, with whitewashed bare stone walls They are flooded with daylight and furnished simply. Beds and easy chairs are strewn with woolen throws in deep violets and mossy greens. Bare floorboards are dotted with sheepskin rugs. The effect is at once stylish and modern, yet cosy too. Shelley peers in at a double bed, generously made up with fluffy throws and heather-coloured pillows, and has a sudden yearning to spirit herself into it. She spots several pairs of green wellies lined up neatly by the cottage's front door, and thinks of Joel's trainers. Whacking great objects, like hovercrafts, kicked off in their hallway at home. It looks amazing, she marvels. I'd love the three of us to go up and stay sometime. Yeah, we'd pay, of course, Lena adds quickly. I mean, it's his business, isn't it? We wouldn't expect to stay for free. Shelley takes a big swig of wine. I want to be there right now, Pearl. Beam us up there. Call him now. Pearl laughs, and her auburn curls bounce around her cheeks. I'll message him sometime, see what he says. I haven't seen him since, God, he must have been about 20. But he's never forgotten Brandon's birthday. Even though they've never met, he still sends a card, even now. And he was so kind and thoughtful after Dean died. He sounds lovely, Shelley announces. I was just so impressed, Pearl adds. Michael didn't know us as a family, and he doesn't have kids. But when he heard about Dean, he was on the phone right away, and then a few weeks later he called again and asked if he could talk to Brendan. He chatted away to this bereaved 10-year-old kid about what he was into and stuff, and that Christmas he sent him a Lego robot. Shelley's blue eyes glitter as she squeezes Pearl's hand. I really think we should go. How about early spring? Count me in, Lena enthuses. I can think about that little blue house while Tommy's mum saying, "Oh, I didn't think you people celebrated Christmas." And I can picture myself thrashing through the heather with a bottle of scotch when I've peeled the 75th potato and Joel's asleep on the sofa with his mouth open. Shelley laughs. We need this to get us through Christmas. We absolutely do, Pearl said firmly. Leave it with me, girls. I'll sort it. Chapter 4. Pearl's mood is high as the three friends part company that night. Never mind that the world she has built for her and Brandon since his dad passed away has recently been turned on its head, because Brandon's girlfriend Abby has burst in on their world, arriving with a gigantic pink suitcase and no prior consultation, and proceeding to bellow everything at maximum volume. Pearl, could you stick my pyjamas in with your next wash? Pearl, that tinted moisturiser you left out in the bathroom, I used the last little bit. Hope that's okay. Tonight she senses a flicker of relief as she lets herself into her first floor flat. Brandon and Abby are out. She knows they're not working tonight. They're both doing bar work, so it must be a night out. She hopes it's a late one, but is primed for them to burst in at any moment. In the meantime, she rounds up the socks and cotton buds and lacy knickers left scattered by Abby all over the bathroom floor. And that thing Brandon said, when she just moved in, pops into her mind. Just a temporary thing, Mum, to tide her over. She's had a really tough time. It's been 3 months now, and Abby is showing no sign of moving on. But then she has nowhere else to go. And they're in love. At 21, this is Brandon's first serious relationship, and they think nothing of full-on snogging while waiting for their toast to pop up. Once, Pearl accidentally glimpsed Abby jabbing her tongue into Brandon's ear. Brandon, who, just last week, it feels like, had an army of bionicle robots all set up on the living room floor. Yesterday, Pearl discovered a small gold vibrator placed casually on top of the potatoes in the vegetable rack. It wasn't hers. Naturally, Abby will be here for Christmas. She's fallen out with her mother, and it doesn't look as if there will be a reconciliation anytime soon. Occasionally, Pearl is tempted to call Abby's mother and offer a mediation service. Surely the rift can be healed. Having gathered up the girls' detritus from the bathroom floor, Pearl stops and frowns at the glass shelf, She always applies her makeup in here, as the light is the best in the flat. And Pearl adores makeup. Even in her darkest days, she has never been not up to applying a full face. Quite the opposite, in fact. However wretched she's felt as she's worked through the steps, base, eyes, blush and lips, Pearl has always sensed herself settling, her heart rate calming, and things becoming just that little bit better. Now she notices that her favourite lipstick isn't in her makeup bag, where she's sure she left it. Instead, it's sitting out on the shelf. No longer a beauty editor, when she was festooned with free makeup samples from PRs, Pearl now works as a freelance makeup artist. These days she buys most of her makeup, although she has enough friends in the industry to be sent the occasional jiffy bag packed with samples. It's a delightful perk of her job. However, this particular lipstick wasn't a freebie, and Pearl didn't buy it. This Tom Ford lipstick was a present from Lena, who knew she'd adore it and would never spend £48 on a lipstick for herself. The colour is Ruby Rush, the perfect warm red for Pearl's auburn hair and fair skin. She pulls off its lid and frowns at the mangled state of it. Well, it certainly wasn't Brandon. Abby must have used it and jammed the lid back on without properly twisting it back down. Should she say something? No, she can't bear to be so petty. However, it rankles her, the way her flat feels invaded, and it's not restricted to her makeup or even the bathroom. The entire flat is strewn with Abby's puffer jackets and huge quilted bags and their flashy gold logos and jangling chains. The small-starred storage unit Pearl ordered, still boxed and propped up in the hall, is heaped with further jackets and scarves. Yet Pearl can't help feeling sorry for the girl. After the fallout with her mother, she seemed a bit lost, despite the brazen attitude. And Pearl knows all about feeling lost. Now, though, things are getting better. She's had a lovely night with her best friends, and things are good with Elias. So far, he's been unfailingly sweet and thoughtful, and gradually she's allowed him into her life, and who knows where things will lead. She's not going to let a mangled lipstick ruin her mood. Now, as Pearl pulls on her pyjamas, her phone dings with a text. It's Elias. Hey, gorgeous. Hope you're having a fun night out. Know it's cheeky and late, but can I be cheeky and late? Winky face. Can I come over when you're back? It's about the surprise. A rush of anticipation surges through Pearl's body, instantly dispelling any irritation over the crushed lipstick. She replies, smiling as she types. Pearl. Of course. I'm just home, so come over. See you soon. Kiss, kiss. Chapter 5. 7 Days Until Christmas. 1:07 a.m. 53 years old, and Pearl is in the throes of a sexual reawakening. She's already had 2 orgasms since Elias bowled up an hour ago, fresh from his Christmas night out with his consultancy buddies, and expressing delight that they had her flat to themselves. Before she met him, it was more than she'd had, at least involving another human, across the entire previous decade. Elias is a remarkably youthful-looking man of 58, with barely a wrinkle and an enviably toned physique. Pearl wonders if he's had work done, and fears that his peachy complexion makes her look like a withered potato in comparison. Always impeccably groomed, he has a personal trainer and guzzles probiotics for his microbiome and drinks only natural wine, and in moderation. As far as Pearl is concerned, there is nothing unnatural about any wine. Pearl had never imagined that this kind of scenario would be possible, because until a few months ago, when she'd started dabbling with a couple of dating apps, she had been celibate since Dean died. Sometimes Pearl had wondered if she'd even remember what to do. And the thought of being with anyone else who wasn't Dean seemed unthinkable and rather terrifying. Going on a couple of dates in the summer merely confirmed that she was better off alone. There was the man in the frankly hideous basket weave shoes who, after they'd agreed to meet for a coffee, proceeded to order an enormous salad and sat there cramming lettuce into his mouth in front of her. Then the cycling enthusiast, with whom she had re-lost her virginity, and who harangued her for not having a proper pension provision in place.